Right, morning. My name is Joseph Asutai. I am a farmer in Awoja Riverside farm in Soroti district. I got into farming in 2014 when I exited white collar. So I wanted to do agribusiness, and for me the understanding of agribusiness in this regard was that I needed to farm all through the year as opposed to doing that seasonally. And so what that also implied is that I needed to get away from depending on rain-fed agriculture and try to augment my sources of water. And so that dictated on where I would locate my farm. So after a long search across this region, I was lucky to be received by the folks in Awoja, where we are currently now with Awoja Riverside farm. And so we started. The advantage here is that we have a massive water body which is able to feed the farm. So we abstract water from Awoja Riverside farm to use for irrigation here. But no sooner had we settled down here than we realized we were confronted with another problem which had to do with the soils here. The soils here are heavily leached because there is an inclination. The topography is such that there is a runoff from the other upper side down to the water body. And so, yeah, most of the nutrients in the place that I purchased from the locals were being leached away. So that urgently meant that I had to see how to enrich the soils, renew the soil fertility. And so for me, what seemed to be obvious was to look for local manure, to try to boost the nutrients in the soils. Unfortunately, in most of this region, you now have a low number of cattle. My first manure here was brought all the way from Woblenzi, in Luero. The coincidence was that I had friends, whose trucks were plying between DRC and Mombasa. So during the return leg of one of those long trailers, we were then able to detour them into the Woblenzi area, where there were many poultry farms. So we filled the truck with poultry droppings and dumped them all here, right? It was more than I could use because I was just beginning, but anyway, what was good about that was that I was able to prove that with an addition of such manure into the soils, we would be able to improve on the production and productivity of this area. By the way, when folks here sold to me this land, they were laughing at me. They say, look, this fellow does not know where he's throwing his money to. Because it looked like wasteland, to be honest with you. It looked like wasteland. Picking the history of the place, I learned that decades ago, maybe 4 decades ago, yes, there was active agriculture here, active crop growing. But then years down the road, decades down the road, the soils got depleted for me. All right, so at the back of my mind was also a long-running story, a long-told story about Israelis who constructed Bugolobi Flats. We are told that the soils which were excavated from that neighborhood were airlifted, to Israel. And those soils have helped Israel become the top destination for agro-tourism. But here we are with soils perhaps not comparable to the ones in Israel. And I think that the process of manipulating these ones, could have been easier. Right. So anyway, I picked manure from the distant Luero. That was not sustainable, obviously. And so the next thing for me was to try to look for what was locally available. And indeed, in some relatively distant places from here, there are kraals of cattle, and so I went and negotiated, that they allowed me to offtake, the cow dung. Then in the immediate neighborhood here, there were some very small kraals, say 5 cows, 8 cows. So we negotiated with those as well because the demand at the farm was now growing as we were expanding in our production. And at that time, they gave it for free. They gave it completely for free. It was like I was doing them a service, to clean up their kraals. Now, when they saw the products here, which were amazing. I'll tell you, the products were amazing. You know, for example, for watermelon, we produced watermelons which weighed 17.8 kgs. East African seed couldn't believe, you know, seeing those. The tomatoes were very, very, very attractive. So, well, long story cut short, they came asking for these products. I said, no, these are for sale. They said, but the other day you were picking cow dung from our place. I said, yeah, you gave me for free, but for me it is business. That was a complete turnaround. That was the turning point for our relationship. They said, okay, next time you're picking our cow dung, you must pay, which for me was very good. But today, if I go back to the same homes to ask for that cow dung, I cannot get it, even when I offer money. Why? Because they've learned that if you actually use that cow dung to apply into the soils, you know, you improve the productivity of your soils. This knowledge is not commonly known across this place, and that's where I think we have a challenge in. So for us now, coming in as a Awoja Riverside farm, which positioned itself as a demo and training farm, apart from us producing for the market, because it was very important that we practiced what we preached. And then also more lately as the Eastern Agriculture Show, the input, you know, the humble contribution into the agricultural space has been to complement the services provided by government through the sub-counties, you know, in the provision of extension services. And so we run what is like a public-private partnership now. You know, we see how perhaps to connect with the officials at the sub-county, and we've gone up to the national level. And that's how you now see Naro here, because we don't have that capacity, whether it's in terms of a human resource, the technical know-how, or the logistical requirements, you know, to do this. And so the Eastern Agriculture Show, which has run the 3rd edition, now comes in partnership with the line departments in Naro to try to answer, you know, that problem, to try to plug that gap. And so, yeah, we get hundreds, thousands of farmers coming here, and they're able to interface with the technical persons, you know, in a one-stop center, you know, which is the Eastern Agriculture Show, and they access it for free. So I am a testimony in this region of how application of locally available manure can improve on the productivity, you know, of our soils. And the very good thing is that the immediate neighbors here are off-taking that practice from here, because remember what I told you, that this is a demo and training farm.